I'm Tracy.
Standing in my bustling store filled with customers, I can still vividly recall the storm that once threatened to tear it all down. It all started with a simple text message that shattered my world. Sold your worthless business for $350,000. The family needs the money more than you. You've made a mess of it and no one even remembers who you are. The words were from my brother, Jake. I stared at my phone, not in shock, but in a silent rage that simmered beneath the surface. This business, which he so casually dismissed, was my life's work. Every paper, every founding document, bore my name, Tracy Thompson, not his. The store had been through hell. My father, an eccentric but well-meaning man, had left it drowning in debt when he passed away. Unpaid taxes were piling up, and our loyal employees were on the verge of leaving. But I refused to let it die. I rolled up my sleeves, cleaned the dusty old floors with my bare hands, and modernized the place. What was once a rundown antique shop transformed into a community hub. Families flocked here for unique finds, artists displayed their masterpieces on our walls, and our little tea corner became a favorite hang-out spot in town, winning Best New Place 2 years in a row. And then, without a single word to me, Jake sold it. He told the buyers I had stepped aside, convinced my parents that I'd understand, and deluded himself into thinking he was saving our family legacy. I was furious, but I held my tongue. No reply, no fight, not even a text back. But fate had a funny way of catching up with him. Just 5 minutes later, I heard his phone ring. The buyer, Mr. Cunningham, a shrewd businessman from the city center, called him directly. Sir, why on earth did you sell one of the city's most valuable businesses without the owner's consent? And where is her signature on the contract? The stammering silence on Jake's end was music to my ears. It was louder than any revenge I could have ever planned. That night, Jake called me 6 times. I let every call go to voicemail. The messages piled up, but I ignored them. How dare he ask for explanations after trying to steal what I had built from scratch? Mr. Cunningham's legal team was on top of things. By morning, I received an urgent email confirming my true ownership. I quickly scanned and sent back all the necessary documents, articles of incorporation, tax IDs, everything with my signature, stamp, and date. When Mr. Cunningham called me directly to apologize, I was calm but firm. It wasn't a mistake. It was theft, plain and simple. He asked what I wanted him to do, and without hesitation, I demanded the sale be voided and the fraudulent documents he had signed be sent to me. That evening, I sat at my desk, sipping a cup of tea and looking at Jake's forged signature. I remembered when he was a kid, faking our mom's signature on school notes. Some bad habits never die for someone who's never faced the consequences. But this time, he had made a huge mistake on a document worth a small fortune, and I wasn't just his sister anymore. I was the owner of a thriving business, and I had all the proof I needed. By Friday, the news broke in local business forums. Fraudulent sale attempt at Thompson's Antiques. The headlines weren't overly sensational, but they were clear, and in our small town, that was enough. Jake tried to spin it, posting a message online saying it was just a misunderstanding between siblings and there was no legal issue. He claimed the family was working it out. I read his message while sipping tea from a mug he had once mocked as too flashy. He used to say I was just a glorified manager. Well, glorified managers like me keep receipts, backups, and timelines. That same afternoon, my lawyer filed a formal cease and desist, including the forged signature, the timeline of communications, and a polite warning stating that further action would involve criminal investigation and civil damages. I didn't want to sue Jake. I just wanted him to be seen for who he was, a fraud, not just by me, but by everyone in town who had always seen him as the golden child. That night, my parents called. I almost didn't answer, but a part of me, a deeply ingrained longing for their approval, made me pick up. Mom started. Tracy, you're making a big deal out of this. Why bring lawyers into a family matter? The word family made me cringe. It was often used to excuse the harm done within its walls. I calmly replied, he committed fraud. If a stranger did this, Would you tell me to let it go? There was a long silence before Dad chimed in. You've always been so dramatic. I smiled because I knew that documentation, not drama, was my weapon. And I had enough evidence to bury his claims without raising my voice. Over the next few days, Jake's house of cards started to crumble. Vendors began pulling out of agreements, and the accountant he had hired after pushing me out of business meetings quit without notice. The local newspaper asked for a statement from me, and I gave them a short, professional one. Thompson's Antiques has always been a symbol of resilience and reinvention. One person's attempt to steal what they didn't earn won't change that. The article, titled "Founder Speaks Out After Attempted Family Fraud," was published. I didn't bother reading the comments. I didn't need to. The shift was already happening. Customers started tagging me in photos again. Old employees emailed asking if I was rehiring, and even the mayor's office sent me a card saying they were proud to have me as part of the local business community. The silence that I once feared became my shield. It gave me the space I needed away from Jake and my parents' misguided attempts to control me. Then, Jake sent me a final message. Hope you're happy destroying your own family. I stared at it, feeling nothing. He was the one who had destroyed our family's trust, and I was just the one with the courage to stand up for what was mine. Weeks passed, and the chaos settled. One morning, I found a handwritten note slipped under the door of my store. It read, "We didn't know how to support you without trying to control you. You were always so quiet and capable, and it scared us." I didn't need to see the signature to know it was from my mom. I folded the note and put it in a drawer with my business permits and emergency plans. It wasn't an apology. It was an admission of fear, and fear never built anything meaningful. That afternoon, I hosted a free workshop for young women starting their own businesses. I stood in front of a room full of eager faces and told them my story. How I had started from nothing, facing insults from my own family, and how the hardest part wasn't the betrayal, but believing in my right to succeed without their approval. When a young girl in the front row asked if I was ever scared, I smiled. Every day. But fear doesn't own this place. I do. The room filled with warm, sincere applause. As spring came, the business was busier than ever. The upstairs loft, which I used to use for storage, now hosted weekly meetings for entrepreneurs and artists. There were no formal suits or walls up, just people sharing their stories openly. Then I received an email from my dad. "Tracy," I read the article. "I didn't realize you were doing so well. It's very impressive, but I wish you hadn't made this a public thing. You know how people talk. Your brother isn't doing well. He feels betrayed. You were always the calm one. I hope you can be a bit more understanding." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a folder on my desktop labeled "Proof of Truth." Inside were the forged contract, Mr. Cunningham's emails, the newspaper headline, and a photo of the original deed with my name clearly written. I wasn't keeping these for revenge. I was keeping them to remind me of the truth and of my right to build something for myself. That night, I added a new sign to my store's front window. It read, "Locally built, woman-owned. Family not required." And the next day, we sold out of everything. As time went on, I became more and more successful, while Jake faded into obscurity. Vendors refused to work with him, and his name became a cautionary tale in business circles. Then, a package arrived with no return address, but I recognized Jake's handwriting. Inside was a copy of my dad's revised will. Jake had been removed as the primary executor, and my name was written in his place. There was no note, no apology, just the paper. I stared at it for a moment, and then filed it away with the rest of my important documents. A teenage girl approached me in the tea corner of my store one weekend. "I'm writing a school paper on women in business. Can I interview you?" she asked nervously. I smiled. "Only if you promise not to call it a comeback story." "Why?" she wondered. "Because I was never gone. They just never bothered to see me." She grinned and hit the record button. In that moment, I knew I had rewritten my own ending in a voice they never thought would be heard. I didn't attend the reading of my dad's will. What I had built wasn't about inheritance. It was about ownership, about standing up for myself, and about growing stronger because of the betrayal. I learned to trust contracts more than promises, actions more than apologies, and most importantly, to trust myself above all others. One evening, after the store closed, I walked through the empty space, running my hand along the windowsills I had sanded myself and straightening the hand, lettered sign that read, "This was built by the girl they underestimated." I turned off the lights, locked the door, and stepped out into the night. I wasn't angry or broken. I was free,